Threshold of understanding. The first time Dr. Olivia Pascal saw a meridian in person, she forgot to breathe. Kalith stood 7 feet tall, her iridescent skin shifting between deep azure and violet as she moved through the Institute's reception hall. Unlike the holographic representations Olivia had studied, the fine translucent filaments that extended from Kalith's temples, sensory organs that meridians used for their collective consciousness, seemed to pulse with a life of their own. "Welcome to the Hawking Institute for Xenobiology, Ambassador Kalith," Director Terran Voss said, extending his hand before awkwardly withdrawing it, remembering meridians preferred not to touch outside their species. "We are honored by your willingness to participate in our research exchange." Kalith inclined her head, her large, faceted eyes like polished amethysts, scanning the room. "The honor is mutual, Director Voss. The Meridian Conclave values scientific cooperation above all diplomatic functions." Her voice carried a musical undertone, as if multiple voices harmonized beneath her words. Olivia stepped forward when introduced, clutching her datapad too tightly. "I've been studying your species' neural architecture for years, Ambassador. Your collective consciousness represents the most advanced form of telepathic networking we've encountered." Something shifted in Kalith's expression, amusement perhaps. "And yet you humans achieve so much with your isolated minds, a fascinating paradox that drew me to volunteer." Her gaze lingered on Olivia. "You have questions burning behind your eyes, Dr. Pascal." The following weeks transformed the Institute. Kalith's presence created an unprecedented opportunity for direct study of meridian physiology. What began as formal research sessions evolved into long conversations between Olivia and Kalith about consciousness, identity, and the nature of thought itself. "Do you ever feel lonely?" Olivia asked one evening, analyzing brain scans while Kalith observed. "Being the only meridian on Earth?" Kalith's filaments rippled gently. "Loneliness is a human concept. I remain connected to the conclave consciousness, across space. Distance attenuates the signal but doesn't sever it." She paused. "Though I admit the experience is different here, more focused on individual perception." The incident happened on the 23rd day. Dr. Ferris was examining tissue samples from Kalith's voluntary biopsy when the containment field flickered. The failure lasted less than 2 seconds, not enough time for alarms to sound but enough for microscopic particles to escape. Kalith collapsed 3 hours later during a neural mapping session with Olivia. One moment she was describing the sensation of collective dreaming among her people. The next, her filaments stiffened and she clutched her head with a keening sound that chilled Olivia's blood. "Something is wrong," Kalith gasped. "The conclave, I cannot feel them." The quarantine protocols activated within minutes. The Institute locked down, its staff suddenly prisoners alongside their research. Kalith's condition deteriorated rapidly. Tremors racked her body, her skin losing its luminescence, turning a dull gray. Most alarming was her growing disorientation. Kalith recoiled from everyone who approached, her usually melodic voice fracturing into discordant tones as she tried to communicate. "Everyone except Olivia. She's experiencing some form of neural shock," Dr. Voss theorized, watching through observation glass as Olivia sat beside the distressed meridian. "The pathogen must be targeting the telepathic centers of her brain." "Then why does she respond to me?" Olivia asked, noticing how Kalith's trembling subsided when she spoke. The answer came that night, when Olivia dreamed of a world she'd never seen. Twin moons hanging over purple oceans, and the sensation of thousands of minds gently touching her own. She woke to find Kalith standing beside her bed, filaments extended toward her. "I can hear you," Kalith whispered, her voice steadier than it had been for hours. "When all other voices have gone silent, yours remains. How is this possible?" Preliminary scans revealed the impossible the next morning. Somehow the pathogen had created a direct neural pathway between them, a human and a meridian, two species whose brain structures had evolved on planets 400 light-years apart. "This is unprecedented," Dr. Ferris muttered, reviewing the data. It's as if the infection is specifically targeting the collective consciousness structures while building new connections. Not destroying, rewiring. Olivia felt Kayleith's fear before she saw it in her eyes. A strange doubling of emotion that left her dizzy. "What does this mean?" Voss demanded. Olivia met Kayleith's gaze across the room, understanding dawning between them like a shared thought. "It means," Olivia said quietly, "that for better or worse we're connected now, and I might be the only thing keeping her sane." Echoes in the mind. The quarantine wing of the Hawking Institute transformed into an unsettling paradox. Clinically sterile, yet intimately confining. As the second week of isolation stretched into a third, Dr. Olivia Pascal found herself existing in two mental spaces simultaneously. Her own rational scientific mindset and the chaotic emotional landscape that leaked through her connection with Kayleith. "Your cortisol levels are elevated again," Dr. Juno Ferris noted, studying Olivia's latest biometric readings. With her cropped silver hair and perpetually furrowed brow, Juno had become the voice of caution in their small crisis team. "This connection is affecting you physiologically. We need to consider limiting your exposure." Olivia shook her head, wincing as a wave of anxiety, not her own, washed over her. "If I stay away from her for too long, she destabilizes completely. You saw what happened yesterday." The incident had been brief but frightening. After Director Voss insisted on separating them for a full neural mapping of Kayleith. The meridian had convulsed violently, her skin flaring between colors so rapidly it induced migraines in the observing staff. 3 containment fields had shorted out before they allowed Olivia back in the room. "The moment I touched her hand, she calmed," Olivia reminded Juno. "Whatever this pathogen is doing, it's using me as some kind of neural stabilizer." Juno sighed, her scientific curiosity visibly warring with concern for her colleague. "And what happens if this becomes permanent? Have you considered that possibility?" Olivia hadn't allowed herself to. The thought terrified her, not because she feared the connection, but because some part of her had begun to treasure it. In the adjacent observation room, Kayleith sat cross-legged on the floor, her long, elegant fingers tracing patterns in the air. To anyone else, she appeared to be meditating, but Olivia knew better. She could feel Kayleith sifting through memories. Both, her own meridian recollections and strange new ones that belonged to Olivia. "She's inside your head, Pascal." Director Voss's voice startled her. He'd appeared in the doorway, his typically immaculate appearance showing signs of strain, stubble shadowing his jaw, dark circles beneath his eyes. "How can you be certain she isn't influencing your decisions? Meridians are empathic manipulators by nature." "That's a gross oversimplification of their neurological structure," Olivia countered, feeling a flash of indignation that might have been her own or might have been Kayleith's. The boundaries were blurring. "And she's as frightened by this as we are. More so since she's lost contact with her entire species' consciousness." Voss stepped closer, lowering his voice. "The Interplanetary Health Organization is pressuring me for answers. 3 other research facilities have gone into preventative lockdown. If this is some form of meridian bioweapon—" "It's not," Olivia interrupted with surprising force. "I would know." "Would you?" Voss challenged. "Or would you just think you know because that's what she wants you to believe?" The accusation hung in the air between them, heavy with implications. Before Olivia could respond, a soft chime indicated Kayleith had activated the intercom. "Your distrust resonates like dissonant music, Director Voss," the Meridian said, her voice calmer than it had been in days. "I understand it. Fear of the unknown is deeply encoded in your species' survival instincts." She rose gracefully to her feet. "But I assure you this was not our doing. No Meridian would willingly sever their connection to the conclave consciousness." "Then explain why you formed this bond with Dr. Pascal," Voss demanded. Kayleith's filaments rippled thoughtfully. "I cannot, but perhaps we are asking the wrong question. Instead of asking why the pathogen created this connection, we should ask why it was possible at all." That evening, While running comparative analyses of their neural patterns, Olivia experienced the first clear vision. It wasn't like dreaming, more like a memory she couldn't possibly possess suddenly surfacing with perfect clarity. She saw a vast underground chamber filled with towering crystalline structures, felt the press of thousands of meridian minds joining in some ancient ceremony, and experienced a profound sense of both belonging and desperate loss. When she blinked, back to reality, Caliph was watching her intently. "You saw the ancestral nexus," the meridian whispered. "A place I have never been from a time before my birth." "How is that possible?" Olivia asked, her scientific mind struggling to process the impossibility. "The pathogen," Caliph's filaments trembled. "It's not just affecting my connection to the current conclave. It's somehow accessing ancestral neural pathways, dormant patterns from our evolutionary past." Dr. Ferris entered with the latest test results, her expression grim. "We've isolated the pathogen. It's like nothing we've seen before. Almost engineered in its precision." She handed Olivia the tablet. "It's specifically targeting neurochemical pathways associated with collective consciousness. But here's the strangest part. It's not destroying them. It's reconfiguring them." Olivia finished scanning the data. "Activating dormant neural architectures." "Precisely," Juno confirmed. "But why would a pathogen evolve to transform rather than destroy?" Caliph closed her eyes, a tremor running through her tall frame. "Because perhaps it is not a pathogen at all, but a key, one designed to unlock something long forgotten." That night, as the Institute's lights dimmed to simulate evening, Olivia found herself unable to sleep. The boundary between her thoughts and Caliph's had grown thinner, emotions and images bleeding across the connection. She finally gave up and made her way to Caliph's chamber. The meridian sat by the window, staring at the stars. Without turning, she spoke softly. "Before the conclave, before the collective consciousness, my people were different. More like yours. Individual. Separate." Her voice carried a note of wonder. "I can feel it now. Echoes of what we once were." Olivia approached slowly. "You can access ancestral memories?" "Not memories as you understand them." Caliph turned, her faceted eyes reflecting starlight. "More like imprints. Emotional resonances from our evolutionary past." She extended a hand, hesitating. "Would you see with me?" Heart racing with both scientific curiosity and something deeper, Olivia placed her palm against Caliph's. The connection between them flared, and suddenly they were falling together through layers of consciousness, through time itself. "Neither," noticed Director Voss watching from the doorway, his expression hardening as he reached for his communication device. "Initiate protocol severance," he whispered. "We need to separate them. Now." Symbiotic patterns. The isolation lab hummed with tension as Olivia hunched over microscopic scans, her fingers trembling slightly. 3 days had passed since she and Caliph had shared that profound mental connection, and the discoveries were mounting at an alarming rate. "These neural pathways shouldn't exist," Olivia muttered, pointing to brilliantly colored filaments in Caliph's brain scan. "They're completely dormant in every other meridian study on record." Dr. Ferris leaned closer, her scientific skepticism momentarily overcome by wonder. "It's as if the pathogen is activating evolutionary remnants, like finding a genetic switch for structures meridians evolved beyond millennia ago." Across the room, Caliph sat unnaturally still, only the slight movement of her chest indicating she was alive. Her normally shifting skin had settled into a deep indigo, a sign of intense concentration among her kind. "She's been like that for hours," Olivia said, feeling the distant pull of Caliph's consciousness against her own. "She's searching through ancestral memories." "And finding what exactly?" Director Voss demanded, entering the lab with 2 security officers. His presence had grown increasingly intrusive as the days passed. Before Olivia could answer, Caliph spoke, her voice carrying unusual resonance. "Understanding. Before the collective we were singular beings. each mind distinct, like humans. Her faceted eyes opened slowly. The pathogen isn't destroying my connection to the conclave. It's restoring a balance that existed before our evolution favored complete telepathic unity. Olivia felt a sudden rush of foreign emotion, exhilaration mixed with terror, flooding through their connection. She's experiencing individuality as her ancestors once did, she explained, moving instinctively toward Calith. Voss stepped between them. That's quite enough, Dr. Pascal. The Oversight Committee has concerns about your objectivity. This connection compromises your scientific judgment. My judgment is perfectly intact, Olivia countered, even as she felt Calith's anxiety spike at their separation. And I'm on the verge of understanding what's happening. The pathogen is engineered. It has to be. It's too precisely targeted at dormant neural structures. Engineered by whom? Voss pressed. Calith rose gracefully, her height imposing even across the room. There are factions among my people, philosophical minorities who believe our collective consciousness sacrificed too much individuality. They are called the Unbound. Terrorists, Voss supplied. Revolutionaries from their perspective, Calith corrected. They seek to restore the balance between collective and individual consciousness that existed in our distant past. Later that evening, alone in her quarters but never truly alone now, Olivia experienced another flash of Calith's ancestral memory. Meridians communicating in pairs and small groups, their consciousness linked but distinct, their individuality preserved, within connection. It wasn't always all or nothing for your people, she whispered to Calith through their link. There was a middle path once. Yes, came Calith's response, flowing directly into her mind. And I believe that is what the pathogen is attempting. To restore. Not to destroy our connection to others, but to make it a choice rather than our only mode of existence. The revelation brought both clarity and danger. If the pathogen was indeed engineered by the Unbound faction, then Calith wasn't just a random victim. She was a test subject, and Olivia unwittingly had become part of the experiment. We need to tell Voss, Olivia decided, reaching for her communicator. Calith's panic flooded their connection instantly. No. He already sees me as a threat. If he believes I'm part of some Meridian plot. The door to Olivia's quarters slid open without warning. Director Voss stood there with Dr. Ferris and a medical team. Dr. Pascal, you're being temporarily relieved of duty, he announced. We're moving Ambassador Calith to secure containment. The connection between you is becoming too unpredictable. As the security team moved toward Calith's quarters, Olivia felt something new through their link. Not just fear, but determination. For perhaps the first time in her existence, Calith was preparing to act completely alone, as an individual, without the guidance of the collective. And in that moment, Olivia understood what the pathogen had truly awakened. Choice. The severed link, the separation happened with clinical efficiency. Security officers escorted Olivia to the Institute's medical wing, while Calith was transferred to the high containment unit 3 levels below. The physical distance between them felt like a wound tearing open in Olivia's mind. This is for your own protection, Director Voss insisted as medical staff attached neural monitors to Olivia's temples. The influence she has over you is unprecedented and potentially dangerous. Olivia struggled against the restraints. You don't understand what you're doing. Our neural pathways have become intertwined. Forcing a separation could cause irreparable damage to both of us. Dr. Ferris entered the room, her face drawn with concern. Taryn, I've been analyzing the pathogen structure. There's something you need to see. She handed him a tablet, her voice dropping. The molecular markers are unmistakable. This wasn't some random mutation. It was engineered with remarkable precision. By the Meridians, as I suspected, Voss said grimly. Not necessarily, Juno countered. The biomarkers indicate sophisticated techniques that don't match known Meridian approaches. This is something else entirely. 6 floors below, Calith convulsed within her containment field, her skin cycling through colors so rapidly it appeared almost white. The neural shock of separation had triggered a cascade effect in her brain, synapses firing chaotically as her mind sought the connection it had come to depend on. In the medical wing, Olivia's condition deteriorated just as rapidly. Her brain, scans showed activity patterns never before recorded in a human. Portions of her neural architecture had reconfigured to mirror meridian structures. Her brain is trying to compensate for the severed link, Dr. Ferris explained to the emergency medical team. It's as if part of her consciousness is still reaching for Kalith. The Institute's communication system suddenly activated with an override alert. The holographic display showed the Meridian Conclave representative, Elder Thaloran, his ancient face severe with concern. Director Voss, we have received disturbing information regarding Ambassador Kalith's condition, the Elder stated. Our intelligence suggests she may have been deliberately targeted by a splinter faction known as the Unbound. Voss's expression hardened. So this was a Meridian attack? Not sanctioned by the Conclave, Thaloran corrected sharply. The Unbound believe our evolutionary path toward collective consciousness was a mistake. They seek to restore individuality to our species through radical means. As they spoke, alarms blared throughout the Institute. In the high containment unit, Kalith had collapsed, her vital signs plummeting toward critical levels. Her system is shutting down, the medical officer reported over the emergency channel. It's as if her brain has forgotten how to function independently. Olivia, hearing this through her own monitors, tore free of her restraints with unexpected strength. Let me go to her, she demanded, blood trickling from her nose as neural pressure built within her skull. I'm the only one who can stabilize her now. Dr. Ferris turned to Voss, her scientific caution warring with humanitarian concern. The data supports her claim, Terran. Their neural patterns have adapted to each other. Separation at this stage appears to be causing catastrophic damage to both. For a tense moment, Voss stood rigid with institutional authority. Then, watching Olivia's brain activity deteriorate before his eyes, he relented. Take her down there, but under full security. Protocol. The reunion in the high containment unit was both scientific miracle and emotional revelation. The moment Olivia placed her hand against the force field separating them, Kalith's chaotic vital signs began to stabilize. When the field was lowered and they touched, both their neural patterns immediately synchronized into a stable, harmonic rhythm unlike anything the monitoring systems had recorded before. This isn't just symbiosis, Dr. Ferris whispered, watching the data stream. It's convergent evolution happening in real time. Through their reconnected minds, Olivia and Kalith shared a moment of profound understanding. The pathogen hadn't just awakened dormant neural pathways in Kalith. It had created entirely new ones between them, a bridge between two evolutionary trajectories that had diverged across galaxies and millennia. I understand now, Kalith said, her voice steady for the first time in days. The Unbound didn't intend this specific outcome. They meant to restore our ancestral neural independence, but they could never have predicted this cross-species connection. Elder. Thaloran, who had transported down to the containment unit, observed them with ancient, knowing eyes. Perhaps they awakened something even more significant than they intended, he said quietly. A new possibility for both our species. As night fell over the Institute, Olivia and Kalith remained together, their minds existing in a space that was neither fully human nor fully meridian, but something unprecedented, a third path no one had imagined possible. And in that shared consciousness they began to understand that what had begun as infection had become transformation, not just for them, but potentially for the future of interspecies connection itself. Convergent evolution. 3 months after what became known as the Pascal-Kalith incident, the Hawking Institute's main conference hall buzzed with an unprecedented gathering. Representatives from 17 worlds sat alongside Earth's scientific elite, all focused on the two figures at the center of the room. Dr. Olivia Pascal and Ambassador Kalith stood side by side, their postures mirroring each other unconsciously. Olivia had changed, her movements more fluid, her speech occasionally carrying subtle harmonic undertones. Kalith, too, had transformed. Her formerly shifting skin now settled into patterns that reflected her individual emotional states, rather than the collective consciousness of her species. The neural bridge we share represents an evolutionary fork never before documented, Olivia explained to the assembled delegates. Neither fully meridian collective consciousness nor human individuality, but a third path, a balanced symbiosis. Director Voss, now humbled by the magnitude of what had occurred under his watch, introduced the next phase of the presentation. The implications extend far beyond these two individuals. The Meridian Conclave and Earth's Xenobiology Council have jointly approved preliminary testing for compatible neural pairs among our species. Not everyone welcomed this development. In the third row, Professor Renaud from the Human Autonomy Coalition muttered about contamination of the human cognitive model. Near the back, two Meridian observers from the Conclave's conservative faction sat rigidly, their filaments completely still in silent protest. Kalith addressed the concerns directly. We understand the fear. What happened to us challenges fundamental assumptions about species boundaries and cognitive evolution. But consider the possibilities: diplomatic understanding beyond language, scientific collaboration beyond cultural limitations, empathy beyond biological constraints. The audience stirred with both excitement and apprehension. Later that evening, in their shared quarters that had been specially modified to accommodate both human and meridian biological needs, Olivia and Kalith reflected on their journey. The Unbound faction has reached out again, Kalith said, her thoughts flowing easily into Olivia's mind alongside her spoken words. They wish to claim our connection as validation of their philosophy. Olivia smiled, feeling the complex emotions behind Kalith's statement. And the Conclave conservatives want to classify what happened to you as a pathological anomaly rather than potential evolution. Everyone wants to own what we've become, Kalith observed, her filaments gently extending toward Olivia in a gesture that had become natural between them. They don't understand that we're neither a triumph nor a cautionary tale. We're simply a new possibility. Dr. Ferris's research had confirmed what they already knew intuitively. The neural connection between them had permanently altered both their biologies. Kalith would never fully rejoin the Meridian collective consciousness, and Olivia would never again experience the complete cognitive independence of a typical human. They existed in a new state, connected yet distinct, shared yet individual. The first volunteer pairs begin compatibility testing tomorrow, Olivia noted, reviewing the schedule on her tablet. Elder Thalarin believes only 1 in 1,000 human meridian pairings will show potential for the kind of neural resonance we developed. It will be enough, Kalith said with quiet certainty. Evolution has always proceeded from rare mutations that offer new adaptive advantages. Outside their window, Earth's moon rose over the Institute's research campus, its light reflecting off the newly constructed Meridian Embassy. The pathogen that had started everything had been neutralized, its engineered purpose fulfilled in ways its creators could never have anticipated. What had begun as isolation had become connection, what had started as infection had become transformation, and what had initially seemed like a crisis had become the first step toward a new kind of understanding between worlds. As they stood together watching the moon rise, their minds gently intertwined in the space that belonged only to them, Olivia and Kalith shared a thought that needed no words. Some boundaries were meant to be crossed, not because they could be, but because what waited on the other side was greater than the sum of what existed on either. In that moment of shared consciousness, the first of its kind between their species but certainly not the last, they glimpsed possibilities that neither human science nor Meridian collective wisdom had ever imagined, a future where difference became not a divide to be bridged, but the very foundation of something entirely new.